That was one of the classic scenes from To Kill a Mockingbird, which, oddly enough, is our next guest, one of his favorite films, Dennis Bishop. He is with the KD Conservatory, and really, I consider probably an unbelievable person as far as going out and getting youth, our kids and youth inspired to get into film and television. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
All right. That is your favorite film, right?
It is.
Give me a little bit of history about that film. I know from you at that particular moment in time.
Well, growing up in the 60s in Oak Cliff, whenever integration was occurring, blacks moving in, and just observing all the prejudice and whatnot. And a film like this just had a real profound impact on my life and the way I grew up. My dad had a body shop, and he had a black man working for him. So from the time I was like 6 for the next 50 years, and he just had a profound impact and introduced me to a whole side of life that I would not have had, and opened my eyes.
Yeah. Let's talk about the KD Conservatory. If someone's not familiar with that, give us kind of a review.
Well, KD Conservatory is a college of musical theater, acting, and film program. It's been around since 1979. It's a really great school. Most all the instructors are working professionals, so they're in the moment. They bring what they learn every day back to the school. We also have short courses and teen courses and children's courses on the studio side that are superb. The college, head of college usually create the classes, and then we bring in teachers, which usually come out of the college, to teach it. And it's all in the same building, and so you have this integration of the 3 programs plus the kids, and it's all this synergy, and you hear singing and dancing and filming, and you'll hear yelling or something, and you get used to it. And at the end of the day, 3 o'clock when school's over, it's so quiet. It's very odd for me. I love all that activity. It really is a good school. Okay,
let's talk about the financial footprint that television and film had here in Dallas years ago, and maybe how that has changed today.
Well, for many, 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 many generations, many years, Dallas has been, I think, number 3 as far as commercials and industrial films. They still are huge in that area. Feature films and television was big in the 70s, 80s, and beginnings of the 90s. We probably had 5 crews deep, which is a lot. People came here from all over the world to film. That's how I got started. And then tax incentives started occurring in around 1990. Going to Canada, where the government gives us some money.
So other states and other countries were enticing production to leave the U.S. and go film there.
Yes. So the Directors Guild, which I'm part of, and the Producers Guild came on board to try to help with that nationwide and to try to educate the legislator, the elected officials, in the benefits of the tax incentives. And so they started to spread within the country, and that started bringing films back from foreign countries. And now what happens is it's cyclical. It used to be like Detroit, it was up in Portland, but after a few years, people start thinking, well, it's corporate welfare. They really don't understand the money that's coming in. It's not just going to all these rich actors, so to speak, because 90% of the crew are blue-collar workers.
Sure, and local.
Yes,
right?
On a film like that, they might bring in the department heads, but yes, if you have a crew of 80 to 150, I mean, all but a handful are local, and they make very good money for the most part on the union film especially. But it spreads out to hotels, it spreads out to the dry cleaners.
Restaurants, catering. Yep.
Yes, it's big. And you're building this workforce too. So it's, and also long term, like Dallas. I mean, the TV series Dallas was what, in the 70s or something, yet South Park, whatever it's called.
South Fork Ranch, yeah.
Yeah, is that's been alive all these years, and it's because it lives much longer past the film.
I agree.
And it brings in tourism, it brings in money from outside the state. It's a real good economic, generator.
Now, how has that changed from now? What changed?
Well, the tax incentives in Texas are still are on 16% or something. It changes, it's kind of complicated. Whereas the surrounding states are anywhere from 25 to 35%. But Texas did have deeper crews and equipment and so forth, and a good reputation. And because of the hard work of the Texas Film Commission, especially the Dallas Film Commission, Janice Birkeland, they were able, in the city council and whatnot, to give added incentives and create these zones where they get a little more percentage. And so they were able to attract industry or shows, but generally there were shows that needed the look, if that makes sense. But if you have a show that could be almost anywhere, they're going to go to Louisiana or New Mexico, or right now Atlanta is the hot place. Louisiana is going back on theirs, so they're losing a lot of business. And New Mexico's big, and there's a Santa Fe University there as a studio, and they actually incorporate it with in their curriculum. But so it's very important to bring in the work. So when I came back 20 years later, because I left in 1990 to go to HBO, and it was huge here, film was huge. I came back 20 years later. I mean, I came back all the time, but really came back and really looked, and I was just shocked at how it had been depleted. And now you have a lot of corporate, you have a lot of commercials, do-it-yourself filmmaking because of digital, no budget to max, $500,000 probably, films that are being made. And then occasionally you do have, like lately, Janet's been able to bring in 3 or 4 TV series and whatnot. So there is work here, but a TV show might hire, I don't know, 50, 70 people, and that's it. One gaffer or one grip or one this. So the bigger films have more people. But in the 70s, 80s, they just were one right after another coming in. And it's a really great industry. It really is. It
is. And I think, like you said earlier, if they understood the direct financial impact that the dry cleaner gets from having an additional $200-300 a week in wardrobes and things like that to be cleaned, makes a big difference in that small business owner's pocket, just like the caterers and the hotels. I just wish, could you look at Texas, and it's geographically, it's got so much to offer. We've got the deserts, the kind of Southwest look. We've got the inner city. We've got buildings. We got coastal plain. I mean, geographically speaking, we're a great state to shoot a television series or a motion picture.
Yeah, in the 70s, Dallas was big in, Disease of the Week films.
Sure.
Because you could get almost any look. You could make it look like any other city. So you have this family and having some problem, whatever. You could make it look almost anything you wanted, even Adobe. And that was very good. I did a Western for TNT down in Austin. One reason we did it there was a road movie with road movie. And there were 5 looks on the, north, south, east, west. So you could see, just look around as Chris Christopherson, was going along his horse. You could see the different landscape. And that's one reason we went there. I brought another movie, Big Green, to Texas. You know how I convinced them to bring it here? Central Market.
Really?
Yes, it was new. And we were traveling to Pittsburgh, going to all these cities, and we scouted in Austin. So at the end of the day, I said, hey, I need to go pick up something. And the director and it was all going, what? Let's go back to the hotel. No, come on. You got to get something. So we go on and walk through Central Market, sold.
Nice. There you go. The little things in life that can close the deal.
Yes.
And no telling how much economic impact that had in that area.
Sure.
Nice. We're hanging out with Dennis Bishop. He's with the KD Conservatory, talking about motion picture and television production here in the state of Texas and in the U.S. I'm hoping that lawmakers understand that coming up with these incentives to keep these films here in the States is a good thing. I don't know what Atlanta has done to draw people in. Is it?
Well, the incentives, they understand that people aren't getting rich.
Yeah.
You have, maybe the lead actor, 1 or 2, 3 of them are making good money. After that, it's scale. I mean, people are making reasonable, good wages to not so good wages. Seriously, the vast majority of the workers on films are blue-collar workers. They work by the hour. And what happened a number of years ago with actors, you had the Tom Cruises of the world making their millions. You used to have this level in the middle where you could get a twice scale or 3 times scale, and then you go down to scale. Well, the studios and all started cutting the budget. They pretty much eliminated that middle ground. So all these middle-level actors who you know what they look like, but you don't know their name, and they had a good living, they were all of a sudden having to work for scale, losing their homes is really tough. And it just, a lot of pressure, it just got to where it's all about the bottom line.
Yeah. I'm looking at some of your credits here. Let's talk about some of the productions you were involved with.
Well, done a lot. I've been doing it for 40-something years, but...
what are some of your favorite then?
Well, Trip to Bountiful, done in the 1980s. Horton Foote, who adapted To Kill a Mockingbird to the screen. Worked with him on a number of films, but Trip to Bountiful won an Academy Award for Geraldine Page.
Wow.
And then HBO, when I went there in 1990, they told me they wanted to make my kind of movies, all these films here. I got involved with the Sundance Institute in the very beginning. Because I knew a lot of people here, and they were trying to attract filmmakers. That helped a lot. That created a network of people for me to move up. But from there, I did Promised Land, Meg Ryan and Kiefer Sutherland. That was their big break film. But then going to HBO in 1990, we kind of reinvented television. At that time, if an actor, a feature actor, if they worked in TV, their career in features were over. HBO changed that because we were doing projects like And the Band Played On and Barbarians at the Gate and Texas Cheerleaders that these big-time producers could not get them made, like Ray Stark and Spelling, as a feature because no one would buy a ticket to watch about it, AIDS and death and the Ebola. And then on network television, they wouldn't program it. You couldn't say these words. So HBO was making these hybrid films, teaching people really how to make these hybrid films and bringing forth making films. Then you have Richard Gere is the reason that Band Played On was finally made. I mean, I bow to him and what he did to help. He is the reason it finally got made. We shut that film down twice and almost third. They told me to shut it down a third time in pre-production. It was hundreds of thousands a week, and I didn't. I didn't shut it down. I didn't tell the people I worked for that I wasn't shutting it down. I told the office...
You just didn't do it.
I didn't do it. Told the production office, be quiet, don't report in, you know, just keep it low, lay off who you can, and just shut up. So it went a week or more, and I think, well, my job's over, I'm gone. But what happened was that Randy, that wrote the book, and an executive from HBO, went up to an AIDS convention in Seattle, and they ran into Richard Gere in the lobby. And there'd been this thing with Whoopi Goldberg. She was going to be the lead, but she was shacking up with Ted Danson in a hotel room, and that pretty much ended her doing it because we didn't know when she was coming out. So he was up in Seattle, and they ran into Richard and on the floor, and Randy had a script, so would you read it? And usually actors won't do it, but Randy at that time was a big deal. I had written the book. And so the next morning, Gere came down and said, I'll do it. And that was the time, I maybe shouldn't say this, when the gerbil rumors are going
Sure.
And Gere did it. And he played the gay choreographer, which at that time, you'd think his career is over. And you see what Richard's doing now. It's unbelievable what he's doing, and he is the reason. So whenever they told me to gear it back up, what's it going to cost? I don't think we can afford it. Oh, yeah. And so the numbers are so low, because I had them going, that it went forward.
That is an awesome story.
Yeah.
I love it. We got to take a quick break, 7:30 right here, talking to Dennis Bishop with the KD Conservatory. Coming up, the Ken Davis Chorale. Kristen Ferguson is here. She's going to sing for us. I don't know about that. I don't know. Well, we do have some music for you. Quick check on the traffic as well. We'll be right back. That was one of the scenes from And the Band Played On, starring Richard Gere, and we were talking in the break just how pivotal and groundbreaking this film really was back in the day. And this is what, 1993, I think, is when this film came out. Right. All about gay relationships, and especially on film in front of movie viewing audiences of two men kissing. Well,
it was about not illness, diseases that are killing people. It started out with Ebola, and then you move into the gay disease or HIV, AIDS. But so part of the underlying that was the homosexual situation, because they were claiming it was only because of gays, and that was spreading the disease, which was, they proved to be false, but that was the thought at the time. So in the film, real quick, in the first like 10 minutes establishing this gay community, Ian McKellen, Sir Ian McKellen, was played a gay character with a younger man. I can't remember the actor's name now, is very well respected. And it's a scene in their apartment, and it's written that they hug. Well, Ian and the actor, who were both gay, wanted to kiss. So it became a big deal that within the studio, the head of it, who's brilliant, Bob Cooper, that they shouldn't kiss. And the reason is, in 1992, that we were trying really hard to reach, let's just call it middle America. Mm-hmm. And we felt very strongly that if you had two men kissing in 1992, people would turn off the TV and they wouldn't watch and learn. And so the argument was, okay, they were trying to prove a point. They were doing something for gay pride, and we were trying to tell a message about something much more important at that time, which was that it was killing people, and they couldn't, there was no cure, nothing about it. So I had to go up to San Francisco to reshoot this scene with the other executive who they didn't care for, and in the room to make sure they didn't kiss. Well, I felt like an idiot, but at the same time, I really believe strongly.
You're like the Kiss Patrol.
Yes. I felt very strongly at the time that it was the right decision. It was much more important that people watch the movie and learn about AIDS and help us do something about it than to see two men kiss for gay rights, if that makes sense. I'm going to get plastered for this, but and so I was up there, and so we go in and we're having to make sure they shoot a take with them hugging, and then we broke, you know, the camera move or something and changed camera angles. Walked outside to craft service with the executive, and the director walks down screaming at the creative executive about, you know, how he could do this and that and all. And then later in post-production, when we were doing ADR, where the actors come in and fix lines and stuff, Ian is standing there in front of me, berating me, I'm the messenger, about why it should be done, why he thought it was wrong. And I'm trying to explain, you know, the company policy, which I believed. And that was embarrassing, to be standing there with Sir Ian McKellen and little Denny Lynn Bishop, you know, arguing the company's point of view. It was scary.
Yeah, what I could imagine, you've had such a pivotal role in some of these films. The way it comes together is really interesting with the Richard Gere and just kind of here's a script, read it kind of deal, and very cool stuff. Let's talk about the state of what's going on now in Dallas. We got the Real Housewives of Dallas. It got a lot of controversy when it first came out. People didn't want it here in the city. Mm-hmm. I actually was an advocate of it. I thought it was a great, any publicity for the city of Dallas is good publicity as far as I'm concerned. It's a very popular franchise on Bravo, employed people here in the city on production. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'd be a rich man if I hadn't turned down a lot of films for content, but that's one I would turn down. I don't agree. I just think... I think a lot of problems.
Has reality TV ruined motion picture or television production at all?
It's gone beyond that. I mean, the problem is, years ago, especially when I was involved, the studio executives and directors, people would talk about how film does not impact behavior. That's bull. Yeah. It does. And so they justified it, that they could do the violence, they could make all these films, because it didn't matter. Well, it does matter, and we've seen it. And I think a lot of what's going on today with guns and everything else is because of films like that. So and you got to realize that
excellent point.
The majority of the people that run Hollywood are Republicans. They are very conservative because they're there to make money. So if you want to sort of break it out, I mean, directors and whatnot, the creative side is probably more Democrat, but when you get up to studio level, it's totally changed. It's wrong how the people view, you know, Hollywood, et cetera.
Yeah, I would never thought that. I thought Hollywood was run by the left.
No, and there are, but when you look at building buildings or building highways, they tend to, whoever they are, I mean, the developers, they're building these for various reasons, but part of it is making money. And so a lot of decisions are based on whether it's going to make money or not. And so some people, the moral issue goes out the window. For some, they maintain it. We see it all the time. Okay. And so that's true in making movies. It is about profit. I mean, it is a business. You can't stay in business and keep making films if you're not making money.
True. Dennis Bishop joining us from the KD Conservatory. Now, the website is kdstudio.com.
Yes.
You've got a great program there. If anyone's interested in getting into television production, filmmaking, acting, musical theater, production on any sort, this is where they need to go. It's local. It's taught by great people that are in the real world like yourself.
And teen workshops, you know, from acting, musical theater, and film. They're all coming up in the midst of some of them, but in July we have more coming up. They're affordable and they're cool. They're really cool, children's and teens.
Are you a fan of singing and dancing?
I'm a fan of sitting and watching people sing and dance.
Me too. All right, we're back, 8:17 here in the studio. Our first guest is no stranger to television and film. Dennis Bishop is with the KD Conservatory here in Dallas. Just a wonderful resource for people wanting to get into television production and movie production and acting. And welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
I enjoyed our conversation in the 7 o'clock hour. I found out so much about the movie industry and kind of the stories behind the making of certain movies. But let's touch upon real quickly just what, if you're not familiar with the KD Conservatory, just what it's all about.
Well, KD Conservatory was established in 1979, primarily, if I understand it, in the community with the apparel mart was growing, a lot of local models, and Kim Dawson and Kathy decided they really needed to train them. to be better because they were trying to compete with New York. So they opened the school. That began to grow. Then they added acting. Then a number of years later, she was able to get it accredited as a college associate degree. And then about 14 years ago, they added musical theater with Michael Sorecchia. And then from there, in 2009, she asked me, because I was coming back and forth from L.A., and I'd known her a long time, if I would come in and create the film program. So I took that started some ideas. I took that, we really expanded on it and changed it completely and created this program. So it's four 15 weeks sessions over 18 months. 15 months, actually.
And it gets these young, inspiring filmmakers prepared to get into the real world. And what I love about it is it has professionals like yourself that are very seasoned. They've accomplished a lot. And I'm looking at your credits here, and you've been on, like, everything. But it gives them really the experience and hands-on interaction with you guys.
Yeah, it's not a trade school. It is an associate degree level. But having been an adjunct professor at USC, having been in the industry and hired hundreds and hundreds of graduate students, college students, I just really believe the theater side does it better, and to be able to teach the students a little bit about everything, so when they finish a program, they're prepared to work anywhere in the industry to get started, and it helps them to move up. You just don't graduate from any film school and immediately go to work. So we encourage them to learn and to get, take internships to get involved while they're going to school, so they're better prepared. And we really teach them reality. We have a course in the fourth semester there where we prepare them for the professional world, and there are very few colleges that do that. And so when they leave, they have a very good idea of what it's going to take to be a professional. We bring in career coaches, lawyers, how to interview. They have to go out to industry organizations and volunteer and do all kinds of stuff to realize what it takes to, because you have to become part of the community if you're going to be successful.
And let's talk about some of the credits that you have to your career to give people a perspective of what you've worked on.
Well, I'm from here. I'm from Oak Cliff, graduated in South Oak Cliff a long time ago. But I built my career here through still photography and then film. But I got involved in the Sundance Institute in the very beginning, and I elected to stay here as raising children, didn't want to move to L.A., and that helped tremendously for me to move up. So I did a lot of independent films, a lot of movies of the week that were coming here. And then Horton Foote called me and asked me if I would work with him on 1918. He adapted the book To Kill a Mockingbird. He was like my hero. So I worked with him, and then we did Trip to Bountiful, which won an Academy Award for Geraldine Page. From there, I did a whole bunch of other movies, Sundance projects. Evening Star, not Evening Star, but Promised Land, that really broke out Kiefer Sutherland and Meg Ryan. And then from there, I was hired by HBO. They said they want to make my kind of movie. Then I get there, realized I was from the provinces, and industry town was pretty tough. I was protected, came up to speed, and then that's when we kind of reinvented television through HBO. And the band played on Barbarians at the Gate, Texas Cheerleaders. Then from there, moved on, did a bunch of studio pictures. The ones that stand out was Dexter. I was a producer on the pilot for Dexter. One of my best friends was the writer and showrunner. And then from there, I was asked to oversee Fast and Furious for the studio. The film was in trouble. They've been shooting a week. I didn't want to do it.
Was that your type of movie that you'd work on? No. It seems like it's not. All the cerebral movies that you've mentioned, and then all of a sudden you have kind of a shoot 'em up kind of race car movie.
Yeah, I'd be a rich man if I hadn't turned down so many pictures over whatever issues, moral issues. And in fact, I felt I took the movie because the producer was a very good friend of mine, as was a studio executive. And they said that I would be treated as a producer. I wouldn't just be a suit, and that I'd have input. So I said, okay. And I really went in to help them. And so I went in, and almost every day with the director, we talked about how I thought Vin Diesel's character shouldn't get away with it, because it wasn't Robin Hood. He wasn't Robin
Interesting. So you did not like the fact that Vin Diesel got away with...
Well, they were terrorizing these truck drivers.
Right.
But what was brilliant about the film, though, is totally changed the way chase sequences done, totally changed the way stunts and things were done. All that was real live. Everything about it was inventions. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was the best crew in Hollywood because of runaway production, because of tax incentives. And so...
Now, where was that shot? It was shot in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that was the big deal. The producer, Doug Claiborne, a friend of mine, we had created this organization to try to bring films back to L.A. at the time and the United States. And so it was a big deal to us that we try to keep it in L.A. And so all the crew agreed to work for scale and so forth. And it was just amazing. I mean, it was absolutely one of the best crews I've ever worked with.
How many vehicles did you guys wreck in that whole production? That's when you watch this, you just go, my goodness.
There were approximately 6 cars for each car you see, and some of them were torn up. And they built this rig. They took a Ford van, cut it from behind the driver, had the frame, and they extended it. They took the rice rockets, the cars, took everything out from underneath it except the interior and set it down on that. Because, when you see sequences where a car is up on a trailer, they're higher than all the cars around them, and they bump, straight up and down. They don't ride properly. So by using this rig, then they set it down. It was at street level, so motorcycles stuff going around at street level. They put these old fire extinguishers on the back wheels and remote control. And so when they were all those driving scenes, when Diesel and Paul are talking, that's real. That's happening. That's not. There was only one green screen shot of them sitting in a car because we couldn't go back out in the desert. But everything's real, and that truck that's 25 foot long going down the road at like 70 miles an hour downtown Dallas and makes those turns and going and being chased, that's real. So the way they were able to turn that gigantic rig was spraying this chemical on the back tires, which made it slide. And all the jumps and all these things they did.
That is awesome.
We shot in the alleys in this really bad part of town, and while we were prepping, there was a murder right around the corner in L.A. But they had to steam clean and disinfect the alleys from all the needles and all this stuff so we could shoot in the alleys. And
I would, Michael, I would love to spend an evening with him talking movies. It's very, very interesting stuff there. Dennis Bishop from the KD Conservatory. And, of course, if you want to get involved in the film and television production, if you want to be an actor, an actress, or anything in this whole industry, KD Conservatory is in our own backyard. That's the good thing. You don't have to go out to L.A. I know that you were at USC for a while.
Yeah.
You can stay right here locally.
Yeah. I mean, I moved back here because it was time for me to pass it forward, and I wanted to come back. People here helped me build my career. People stuck by me. They gave me opportunities, and I felt I needed to come back here and to give back.
I feel like
that's what we do.
And I feel like you're the kind of guy that you did not work on projects that you morally were against. I see that in you. And a lot of people would just chase the dollar, obviously, right? They would throw out. I mean, is that kind of the mentality in Hollywood in a way, or?
Look, I just can't do it. I mean, it has.
Would you like to work on Entourage? Would you have worked on Entourage?
Maybe. I mean, that's real Hollywood. I mean, that really is the way it is. And it was 10%.
How many Ari Golds of the world do you know?
Several. Yes.
Yeah. When I was watching it last night, I mean, it just reminded me just how much I love that guy, Jeremy Piven. I think he's just a great character actor in a way. I mean, it's almost like it's him, really.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, it is a great, accurate portrayal of Hollywood.
Yes, it is.
And so
I was going to say, a friend of mine, David Martyr, the Teamster coordinator on Fast and Furious, Dexter, and also Kane with Jimmy Smits, he's written a book. His wife's the executive at Universal. But it is a really good book. It's not well written, but it is. You want to know the craziness of Hollywood? Get this book. And you can get it on Amazon, but it's called "It Takes More Than a Donut to Make a Movie" by David Martyr. And you will sit there and go, "This can't be true." It is true because I was there for a whole lot of that stuff that he writes about.
The website is kdstudio.com. Get involved in the College of Film and Dramatic Arts there at KD Conservatory right here in North Texas. We're going to put up a link on our website as well. And as we go to break, I'm going to play a clip from, you said earlier, one of your favorite movies is To Kill a Mockingbird, and I've got a scene here, and let's check it out.
Will you please catch it with your left hand?
I can't, sir.
Why can't you?
I can't use my left hand at all. I got it caught in a cotton gin when I was 12 years old. All my muscles were tore loose.
Stick around. We'll be right back. There's more. Straight ahead, 6:20 a.m., KEXP, your experts in business. That's just one of the scenes in the movie The Fast and Furious came out in 2001, and our guest on the show worked on that movie, Dennis Bishop. He's with the KD Conservatory. And tell me about this scene, because you're looking at it and you're like, I remember that. We had to do something to get the car to bounce up and down.
Yeah, I was down near the shipping lanes south of L.A. So yeah, in order to get the Chrysler or the Dodge to jump up, because it's very heavy, because of the Hemi and everything, they put this ram on the back. So whenever he accelerated, they press a button and it slams down. You can see it there. It slams down and it forces the car up in the air. And we had a heck of a time getting a camera angle where you couldn't see that ram. So that's why they did a lot of the smoke. That's fake smoke in order to hide that. And then this whole race with the train and timing all that and making it work. A lot goes into it.
What was the particular part that you were playing? What role were you in the production?
In this production.
Were you the line producer? or
the film? Yeah, there was. Everybody's there. The film was in trouble. It was over budget.
Is that typical for films to go over budget?
No.
No?
No. It was over budget. They thought it was out of control. So I came in. I, again, didn't want to do it, but okay, fine, I'll do it. My friends, I came in, and they wanted to fire all these people, and I had the right. I could fire anybody I wanted. So I come in.
Look at you.
And I realized, I'd been an executive producer. I knew how to do it. So I came in, and I realized it wasn't that. They didn't have a completed script. So my friend, the line producer, wasn't going to give them a budget for a script that wasn't finished. There were all these cars. It was very complicated. So he just was moving forward and trying to be frugal, but no budget. So then they wanted to do a rewrite. They're supposed to cut 3 or 4 stunts. We get the script back. They'd added 4 stunts, which added 10 days, which meant that in 2 pages a day, they'd added 5 additional days. And so nothing that the executives were doing and were helping us. There were 6 writers, and it was just hodgepodge. But we finally got it and figured it out, and off we went. So in the end, no one got fired.
That's good. So. Yeah, that's great that no one lost their job on this. How often does people come in and just clean house? Can we talk to them?
At HBO, I did a movie with Mickey Rourke and in Santa Fe and a bunch of people, but it was insane what was going on, mainly for him at the time. And so I was the executive at HBO. I had to come in and look at it. It turns out that the accountant was hiding invoices and POs in her drawer. And so there were all these, they thought they were under budget and they weren't. Wow. So I had to come in, meet with the producers, talk to everybody, figured it all out. So then I had to call everybody together and said, okay, this is what you have to say. I'd say, okay, producer, director, you are no longer in control.
Oh, wow.
I am in control. We are going to take this over. You're fired, and bring this person in, and we're moving forward now. So,
and that is a scene in Entourage whenever Ari gets.
So the director is Australian, out in the desert of New Mexico, and he always wore silk pants and loafers out in the desert. So he said to me, he's from New Zealand. He said to me, "Could you just stand behind a rock or out of my eyesight so I don't see you because it makes me nervous?" And I said, sure, that's fine with me. And so we would be out there, and I'd go find someplace to hide when the actual filming, and then I'd walk back over there. Because I respected that. He needed to do it. And we became very good friends after that because I respected what he's doing. And then Mickey Rourke had all of his motorcycle rider buddies in the trailer, and they'd come and put out cigarettes in the
sofa and stuff
everywhere. Oh, it's incredible. And then one scene, he was way up on this mountaintop. He's supposed to be dead, and so his gang was riding along, down the valley, and they look up and there he is, and he's just up there on this white horse with this Confederate flag thing, and Mickey demanded that he have earwigs and this rock music playing, and to be motivated to be able to give the performance of just sitting on a horse staring.
Yeah, that's a little something.
So we lost an hour. I mean, just insane stuff.
Well, the financials of it, when you lose an hour of production, that's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Let's talk about the production in the state of Texas and the incentives that exist or do not exist here, and that's why you're seeing a lot of films and television get moved to Canada and other states like New Mexico, and I guess it was Louisiana. Let's talk about that.
Well, it all started in the late 80s and 90s, and I was at HBO, and it was mainly Canada, and then it moved from there, and so production started going to other states. We were losing jobs, And then some of the United States started adding incentives. It started in like USA, a friend of mine at USA Cable in the beginning created an industry up in Portland. And then it was in Florida and I think Michigan, can't remember. Now the big states, New York, Atlanta, Georgia, Louisiana is losing some of theirs. But the idea is that you get the producers get a percentage back. For all the local people they hire, they get a percentage back. And I think in Santa Fe it's 25 or 30%. I can't remember. It's similar in Louisiana, but here in Texas it's around 15. If you work in certain zones, it goes up a little bit. And so that puts a lot of pressure on the local cities like Dallas. Janice Berkland's brilliant at getting this done, that adding more savings to try to bump it up. Plus, we have the better infrastructure. But it's just all the people, the workers are leaving. Studios are leaving, and equipment companies are leaving right now. And in Louisiana, there are a number of productions that have moved out because they can't do it anymore.
Yeah, and I don't know what incentive that obviously going to Canada, they're offering more incentives for that. But why can't we compete with that? Why can't Texas say, look, we're in financial good shape in the state of Texas?
Well, like in California, I was involved with the Schwarzenegger administration and the Directors Guild and the Producers Guild to design and draft the tax incentive legislation for California. I was heavily involved in that and helped write it. And I even flew in and brought people in to meet with the new governor to try to get it done here, which they eventually did. And so a lot of interesting meetings. In California, it had a lot to do with education. Gets 51 cents on the dollar, I think, in taxes.
Okay.
They see it as, okay, you're taking money away from the kids. And all they see is the government's giving money to it, whether it's oil or whether it's any other industry, that it's money that's just making these people rich. And the idea, corporate welfare. What they don't understand is that this money is coming in from the outside. It's not inside money.
It's additional.
It was harder in California because all the studios were there, but what happens, all that money was leaving and they were having to shrink. And you're noticing Universal's totally redoing their studio now, expanding their amusement park and cutting way down on the film production side of Universal Studios because it's gone. It's going out of state. And so
interesting.
And so it's called corporate welfare. So a lot of people, farmers and all these others, argue, why are we giving it to rich people? Because they think every single person on a film makes millions. Well, we don't. 95% of the crew are blue-collar workers or hourly workers. They don't make a lot of money. Even in the Screen Actors Guild, do you realize that only 2% make a living wage of all the members in the SAG? Somewhere like that percentage. And it's not what people think.
It's not what people.
A lot of money.
But I think it can mean a lot of money to local businesses, though,
yes.
As you say, catering companies.
Yes, and so it's important to us at KD because here we are feeling we're coming in, come to us, tuition or North Texas State, any university or whatever that has a film program, and you're graduating these people. You want them to have jobs. So if we have tax incentives here, that's going to help for these people to be employed. Because the worst thing that happens to me is a competent student, someone who's worked really hard, and they graduate, they have student loans, and then they can't find a job. So it's very important that we are able to compete with the other states and the other markets.
Now, I know you worked with Paul Walker, and I can't help but not conclude this segment. How was he to work with?
He was incredible. He had a little 3-year-old daughter that nobody knew about. He had out of wedlock. And she would come to lunch all the time with the girlfriend that he was no longer with. He was amazing. And he was a student of film. He worked really hard, as did the females. Vin Diesel was bigger than life. And the director would do 15, 20 takes because it gave Paul and the two women a chance to rehearse and Vin Diesel to beat him down and wear him out to get it down to where
What a strategy on that.
But it worked. And I got hammered by the studio because you're shooting all this film. I said, but we're not printing. We're not printing it. We're not having to deal with it. Promise me we'll be under budget and it's going to make for a better film. And they backed off because the logic made sense. Now, in digital right now, it wouldn't have been anything.
Wouldn't have been anything, yeah.
They're not paying for all that film stock. But it was a brilliant strategy on the part of the director.
That is, I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
So you had to kind of beat him down a little bit. And did he come in with a bigger-than-life ego, Vin Diesel?
Yeah, it wasn't, he was demanding is the wrong word. He was asking for a trailer equal to Sylvester Stallone.
Okay.
Saying, well,
and of course, that was back in 2001. He's even bigger now.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Yeah,
He's a really smart guy. He sounds dumb, but he's not. He's really smart. But he wanted an exercise trailer like Sylvester, and so we were saying, you're not Sylvester.
Yeah. It's probably like $8,000 a day to bring that trailer in.
And he was just disappointed like a little kid. But he's a very smart guy. He's done a lot for various organizations. And look what he's done. He's come a long way.
Yeah. You're a big fan of singing and dancing, obviously.
Love singing and dancing.
And I'll bring in our next guest.